and other issues that affect us every day. Are you registered to vote? This is the last day to register. And he's like, oh, I'm not sure. And I was like, how can you not be sure? And he's like, well, I don't feel like my vote really matters anyway, so what's the point in registering? And I was just explaining to him, like, especially in terms of midterms, how much of an impact your vote really can have, especially in terms of like reproductive rights and other issues that affect us every day, And I feel like that's the biggest issue. They just, young people don't think that their vote matters or counts.
But I think they're wrong to think that because, for example, I'm from the state of Massachusetts, and people, my peers in my age group, our vote doesn't really matter. Elizabeth Warren will be our senator no matter what. The race isn't even close. Charlie Baker will be our governor no matter what. The only reason your vote maybe matters is because there's a few important ballot measures up for election. But other than that, I can kind of understand the political apathy, even though I personally will vote because it's like, based on how our actual system works, a lot of the time your vote doesn't really matter.
I also think it's about representation. I think it's hard for people our age to connect with your typical politician, and I think that improves through diversity in politics, but that's a whole nother situation. But I think these upcoming midterms would be really interesting because of after issues like Parkland and the recent Kavanaugh hearings, and like how individuals can kind of connect with that more so than some of the other topics that are addressed in politics.
A huge part of it is our generation's own apathy towards politics. That's on them. I mean, you mentioned the Kavanaugh hearings. 30-something% of young people ages 18 to 29 didn't follow the developments closely. Regardless of where you came down, it was absolutely a historical moment, right, in our politics that people on both sides feel super strongly. A third of our generation didn't even pay attention.
It's not that young people don't care about creating change, it's just that they haven't seen change to the scale that they want to see happen through a vote that they've taken or an elected official that they've voted in. I think what makes this midterm election so exciting is that there are so many new young faces, new women, people of color, across the spectrum really, and on both sides of the aisle, who are throwing their hat in the ring and are making it exciting for people to think about what government could look like if it was more diverse and more representative of who they are.
Absolutely. I also think we make it really difficult to vote, and a lot of times the government seems like a bouncer and not like a welcome wagon when it comes to wanting to vote. And so things like voter ID laws really impact young people because there's lots of people that don't have an ID, or they might have moved from one state to another to go to school and they don't know the rules. Our generation, that could potentially be the solution to a lot of the polarization that's happened because the kind of general proposition that most of these young folks have that are running is they want to get things done. And millennials are more likely to identify as independents than the generations before them because they're not bought into the fact that either the Democratic or the Republican Party particularly represents them well.
People have this antipathy toward Trump that, perhaps might not motivate as much action as we might think, right? Does that actually translate into them going to the polls, or is it just a general feeling of, I don't really like him, my friends don't really like him? But if we know that it's true that most millennials are kind of apathetic toward going and actually pulling the lever for somebody, I'm curious as to whether that's going to translate into.
I'd say I have probably three that I really care about. Immigration is a personal one for me too. My family is a family of immigrants, and I think seeing what happened it felt scary and it felt frustrating because I think there is some goodwill on both sides to do something, and a few bad actors can turn what is a genuine desire to provide a pathway to citizenship into an inhumane kind of complete debacle.
The politicians that I vote for need to be able to show me that they're going to lessen the hold on businesses and allow businesses to flourish, and take off some of those regulations that are keeping them down. I'm also a conservative voter, so reproductive rights are important to me as well. I don't describe myself openly as a single issue voter by any means, but I am very passionate about pro-life ideas, and the politicians that espouse those, I am more prone to voting for, absolutely.
You can't complain if you don't participate, so stand up or shut up.